Hey there, and welcome to a YouTube live stream, everyone. It feels like it's been a while since I've done this. Actual fact, I think it was probably the last eclipse season I got on here and did a live stream. So welcome everyone who is on the call, and of course those who catch the replay. So today is all about the solar eclipse that's coming up on the 14th if you are in the Northern Hemisphere, and if you're like myself, it happens on early Sunday morning on the 15th. So because I don't believe that I can do screen shares and the like here on YouTube, I'll just sort of list the dates and the details for that. So it's 4:55 a.m. on Sunday morning if you're in Sydney or the southern states of Australia. Eastern time zone in the USA, you're looking at Saturday the 14th at 1:55 p.m. And in the UK time zones, London, it's Saturday at 6:55 p.m. So it's at 21 Libra. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So do feel free to leave a comment or a question, and I will answer those at the end. What I want to do today is sort of get into a little bit of the technicality, help to break down how to interpret eclipses, what they symbolize, and what they might be able to mean for you. So before I get into those details, I want to share a couple of things that I've got coming up. Firstly, if you're new to astrology, or if you've been, watching YouTubes, listening to podcasts, and following various astrologers, and you'd like to dive deeper into your research thus far, I am starting a new intake of students into my Contemporary Astrology Program that starts November 1. Okay, so going right from the beginning, and oftentimes students will be like, do I really need to start? I kind of feel like I've got my fingers, hands on the wheel in terms of the basics. What the difference is between some guided support is, I'll show you what's you need to know, what's good to know, and what you could probably leave behind. So it just sort of gives you a little bit more of that firmer foundation and a deeper exploration. So I'll pop links in the pinned comments where you can find out more information about that. And also too, there's the Golden Circle, which is my membership. And we've done a lot of deep dives into this eclipse already, last night being one of them. So do feel free to pop any questions or comments that you have in the chat. I look forward to addressing some of those towards the end. So when we start to think about eclipses, one of the ways that they're often described as they are a dysregulation or a disruption into our usual sort of cosmic rhythm of new moons and full moons each and every month. So every 6 months or so, we get what we call an eclipse season. So to qualify what an eclipse season actually is, what we're looking at, if you're looking at someone's birth chart or even your own birth chart, you want to identify if the sun is within 18 degrees either side of either the north or the south node. And if somebody is, the chart you're looking at, someone's born with a full moon or a new moon when the sun is within that qualifying range, that person is born on an eclipse. You'll also note babies who are born in between the eclipses as well. So that's also something to watch for. So what we have with this eclipse in Libra is the sun is going to be at 21 of Libra, and the south node of the moon is at 24. So this qualifies this eclipse as a total or an annular solar eclipse, or what some people nickname it is the Ring of Fire eclipse. So it is quite intense and quite dramatic. So there's a few ways to sort of break down how eclipses can affect the cosmos, the people, the energy. Okay, there's the technicalities. There's also the visibility of an eclipse. And so, what makes eclipses so eerie and so rare is that eclipses are, they only happen sort of every 6 months, and they're not always visible. So where I live in Australia, like we get zero eclipse effect in terms of visibility. So where the eclipse is actually visible is primarily in the Americas. So the USA, as well as the South America, sort of the more northwest components of that continent, so that they get the total eclipse energy. So for some, it may be a little bit of a throwback to the 2017 eclipse cycle. So eclipses tend to affect the areas where it is visible. So that's where the most intensity will happen. This can show up weather events. This can show up geopolitically, and different issues around solar figures. So the sun is literally getting blocked by the light of the moon. So when we talk about solar figures, we could be talking about government, politicians, celebrity. Traditionally, it's kings, but we don't really have, well, we actually do. Well, at least in Australia, we have a king. But in most parts of in terms of where the eclipse is visible in the Americas, it's not so much an issue. So we do tend to see sort of social changes and disruptions with eclipses. And I think that's going to be even more the case this time because it's the South Node eclipse. So there's two ways to look at this. It's a new moon. So a new moon is about those sort of fresh starts and new beginnings and the seeding of a new cycle. But when it's attached to the South Node, there's a depletive quality or a disentangling quality that comes along with it. There's 1,000 analogies I could use to describe it, but the idea is, one of the ideas is you can't really sow seeds over crappy soil. They need nutrients. You need to pull out the weeds and the yucky stuff. So that this eclipse can kind of bring a combination of both of those things. Like a door closes as a new one opens, or a door opens and an old one closes, sort of happening simultaneously. So with the South Node being the sort of key technical component of this particular eclipse, the South Node, or the nodes of the moon, are very, very rich in symbolism and meaning. But the South Node is loosely energy of depletion, of letting go, of cutting away, disentanglement, or severing of some kind. A simple way to look at this is the North Node very much speaks to the idea of being in the material realm. We need food, we need money, we desire things, we have ambitions, we have, hungers, which is that head of the dragon. But the tail of the dragon, or the South Node, is that letting go of those types of things. What we consume, we have to eliminate through the dragon's tail. So sometimes, even though the South Node solar eclipses tend to be uncomfortable, they are, that's for sure. But sometimes what we let go of, or what we compost in a sense, becomes the nutrients for that next cycle. What we let go of helps us to lighten our load. Oh, I should have got rid of that relationship ages ago. Oh, I feel so much better after a haircut. Yes, they're very sort of low-hanging fruit interpretations, but lightening the load can be very helpful for seeding new cycles and new beginnings. So there's that disruptive quality. It's not just a beautiful Libra moon where we can sort of set new intentions around things to do with relationships or harmony or togetherness. When we have the South Node entangled in this, it shows us that there's a disruption to those relational patterns. I have Libra stuff. My sect light is in Libra. So there is something about this eclipse that really speaks to the ingrained shortcomings that Libra has. Now, every sign has its, shortcomings and its blessings, like the good qualities and the bad. And the South Node is going to sort of backlight the qualities of Libra that may not be working for you anymore, or the habitual patterns in relating in particular that are just not cutting the mustard. And of course, for you, it may not be about relationships in general, in terms of people, romantic partners, or what have you. We all have Libra somewhere in our birth chart. And so it might be your relationship to money and finance. It could be relationship to your home and family, and what does that foundation look like to you. It could be relationships to do with your friends and industry connections and the people that the groups and communities you're involved in. So eclipses will bring fast-paced change to these types of topics. And with the South Node, it's a disentanglement of these Libra, deficits, if you like. And one of them is compromise. Where have you been going along to get along, and you've realized you've reached that sort of fork in the road where you're like, hang on a minute, I can't do this anymore. Instead of, where do you want to go for dinner? I don't know, where do you want to go? This is about sort of disentangling that sort of, people pleasing concept that is often behind Libra. It is that, the consensus model, the idea of, democracy, keeping the peace. And there are times where, of course, that is necessary. But if there is that compromise that is continual and things are out of balance in a particular area of your life, you might have to readjust these scales by letting go of something or someone, or finding ways to break patterns. If you're kind of the people pleaser or the compromiser, maybe the disruption for you is to go, no, this is actually what I want. Okay, so that might be an invitation to explore during this eclipse. So eclipses can bring really fated and karmic events, because these lunations are different to the regular patterns of the cycles. And so when I talk about the kind of idea of fated or karmic events, it's almost like when we have an eclipse, because the sun, the moon, and the earth are occupying the same plane, we get this almost like a direct fusion of energy, a direct line of sight. For those who are a bit more astro tuned in, it's almost like if you have a planet conjoin the ascendant. So let's just say, for example, it's Uranus, and it's smack on your ascendant, or it can be on any angle, any planet. You have almost like a pure shot of that planet in your ascendant, and there's no other planetary sort of influence that is impacting that. So that's a little bit like an eclipse, because the light of the sun is actually getting blocked, and there's that direct plane energy. So this is what can make the physicalities of the eclipse be really obvious. Now, it's a South Node eclipse, so it is depletion. It is an energy buzzkill. There can be tummy upsets, digestive evacuations, vivid dreams, general fatigue. And for some people too, it could actually be kind of energizing in a funny way. Eclipses do have that maverick component to them. We can look at some of the astrological technical points, but there's always that wiggle room for the unexpected there. Now, eclipses traditionally are usually indicators of sort of bad omens, or things that are less than ideal. I would invite you to challenge that notion, because nearly 20 years of reading for clients, there's a lot of eclipse energy that can bring really positive events into the life. It can bring change, it can bring disruption, and it can really bring fast-paced events into the life. So if you can sort of imagine something in your life where you think, oh yeah, maybe 18 months to 3 years or something, I can see myself doing XYZ, and boom, an eclipse season, can really bring things to the fore. So eclipses, especially a solar eclipse, really does invite you to explore the more chaotic components within yourself. Reason being is that we have the sun that gets blocked by the moon. So for a period of time, the moon takes charge. So this might be a little bit finding our way in the dark, trusting instincts, trusting intuition, and exploring the kind of chaos that ensues when the primary light source becomes blocked for a period of time. So there's a lot to eclipses to kind of unpack. And if you have, we all have Libra bits in our birth chart. We'll all have a house with the sign of Libra ruling it. Now, if you have a planet or an angle, so your ascendant, your midheaven, descendant or IC at, very close to 21 Libra, then this eclipse is going to, bring something to the table for you. So this might mean that you need to figure out the patterning in that part of your life that may not be working in your best interest anymore. The South Node is in Libra, and there is this unpacking or a dismantling of what is relationship. I know through the Venus retrograde in Leo, we saw, the summer of breakups. There was a lot of celebrity couples broke up. I've seen it in clients. I've seen it in, in my personal circles. And now, this eclipse might bring a pattern, like a pattern improvement. What do I need to do now in order to move forward? What did I see, then got unseen, and then seen again? And what do I need to do around that? Libra is a sign of balance, truth, beauty, and justice. And that's being dismantled in many ways. We're seeing it collectively, we're seeing it politically, we're seeing it in sort of every way, shape, or form. And life might feel a little bit unfair. Someone might be getting preference over you, or maybe you're getting preference over someone else. Maybe you have been giving more than you're getting. And so there's this idea here of recognizing something that may have not been seen before. And this is sort of the idea of an eclipse, right? Because, when the light's there, you take it for granted, and then the light goes out. Okay, so if you're cooking dinner at nighttime and the lights are on and you're doing your routine, and then all of a sudden there's a power outage, there's that kind of oh shite moment where you're like looking for candles, or you're looking for your torches and things, or flashlights for the Americans. And then, then the lights come back on, and then there's that relief. There's almost this idea that you can see something that you didn't see before. So there's that component. There's a lot of, disentangling of relationship patterns that take place here. Now, another way to look at an eclipse is, which planet rules it? And this planet is Venus. And so Venus has recently gone into Virgo after those 4 months retrograde. Well, the totality was in Leo, but 4 months in that sign, with inclusive of a retrograde period. So Virgo and Libra share no relationship to each other. We've got mutable earth, cardinal air. So the ruler, Venus in Virgo, does not see this eclipse. So there's an extra level of shadowiness, of things not being clear, maybe having to do a little bit of internal work there. So from a technical point, we would say that Venus in Virgo is in the 12th house from the eclipse. So there's this 12th-ish kind of house energy coming through with this eclipse. It might be having to reflect, meditate, figure out the problems. The 12th house can really symbolize the problems we can't see. It's not like you've kicked your toe on the coffee table and gone, oh, yep, that's why it's red and swollen. The 12th house is the mental anguish or problems of the mind. And then having that rule the eclipse in the sign of Virgo, this Venus in Virgo is already in a fallen position. So there's not a lot to this eclipse from a technical standpoint that is very pleasing. So there's an idea of self-improvement here. What got me here is not going to get me there. What do I need to do to make improvements, to perfect, to refine? Is there an area where less is more is going to be the solution to this eclipse? And there's a real aesthetic quality to this eclipse because A, it's a South Node eclipse, B, it's in Libra, and C, it's the ruler Venus in Virgo that sort of is about that precision and refinement. She's ruled by Mercury, so she's looking to separate and pull all the pieces apart and analyze them individually. This one has to go, this one can stay, and this one maybe I can fix. So in some ways, when you're looking at how this eclipse plays out for you, you could almost sort of bring in two houses of your birth chart. A little bit the Virgo house, that might be the clue, but the action is taking place in the house of the eclipse. And that's another sort of, I guess, tidbit that I want to share with you, is when we're talking about nodes, so the nodes changed into Aries and Libra. When was it? July, maybe? June? Can't even remember. The nodes and the eclipses, the house that they're located in your birth chart is going to show you where the action is happening. So those life topics, is it 1st and 7, 2nd and 8, 3rd and 9th, so on and so on. So that's the life topics that are being sort of churned up by eclipses for the next 18 months. But how we sort of psychologically work with it is through the signs. So a lot of these eclipses are going to bring up for each of us the we versus me, the Libra, the peacekeeper, the binder, the connector versus Aries that seeks to sort of individuate and do its own thing. So it is that sort of delicate balance between the two, love and hate, war and peace, me and we. The people say there's no I in team, but there is an M and an E. So, it's finding that kind of balance in your own life. So I do hope that this gives you a few thoughts and insights in how to manage this eclipse. It's ideally not one for intention setting or setting new goals. This is kind of a sit this one out. The moon has just moved into Libra. One of the reasons I timed this live stream now, just moved in a couple of minutes ago. So we're now deep in that balsamic phase of Libra. And because the balsamic phase of the moon, I should say, and because this eclipse happens sort of 2/3 into the sign, you'll probably feel that the next couple of days, the build up to the eclipse feels very intense, very draining, and kind of fraught. Then the eclipse happens and it will almost feel like a relief. And then, of course, the moon will then, continue to move, and she'll move into Scorpio. Generally speaking, the moon in Scorpio would not necessarily provide a great deal of relief because the moon itself is into its sign of fall. It will conjoin Mars very quickly. And I think once we get past that Moon-Mars combination, then we could sort of, catch our breath again and reflect on these events. Great, some questions. What orb do you use to natal planets? If you're in speaking to the eclipse itself at 21 degrees, it's really the house. Like anything in astrology, if you've got a close orb, you're going to feel this more intensely. So if you're, got a moon at 2 Libra, well, it may not be as tight as someone who's got a moon at 21 Libra. So generally, it's the idea of, closer the bone, sweeter the meat. And astrology is the same. So it's going to be more impactful, more noticeable if the eclipse falls closer to your planet as opposed to further away. It's also important to realize that oftentimes the events that the eclipse can stir or churn doesn't always happen on the day. More often than not, it doesn't at all. It's more about how I've described the eclipses to students in my Contemporary Astrology Program. We're doing nodes and eclipses at the moment. Let me think of a show that I love, The Last Kingdom. And so we've got what we can imagine is that The Last Kingdom, 5 seasons and a movie, is the let's just call it the Aries Libra axis. That's the entire nodal cycle of Aries and Libra for the next 18 months. But then we know what we're talking about, Aries Libra stuff. But with each season, each of the 5 seasons, we could liken those to the eclipse season. So we've got one now, we'll have another one in April, then we'll have another one 12 months from now. So we could call those sort of little seasons within the Aries Libra cycle, season 1, season 2, season 3. And so like a Netflix series, each season will bring slightly new plot lines to the overarching story. So some characters might leave, they get killed off in season 1, and then season 2, new characters get introduced, new romances, new adventures, new lands to conquer. Obviously, we're talking Last Kingdom here. But that's how I would invite you to think about eclipses. We've opened up house topics that are going to have energies shift and flow throughout the course of the next 18 months. So the eclipse season itself is like the introduction of a new season within that series. So it's going to give you new characters to figure out, new adventures to take, and new things will happen. Sometimes, it depends on the show, of course, things get revealed in the final season that started way back in the first season. And eclipses can be like that too. And to get an idea of what I mean by that, reflect back on the house topics that have been agitated, churned up, and changed since November of 2021, which were our Taurus Scorpio houses. To get even more detail on that, look back 9 years, 18 years, through the cycles that are in play. And then you might notice, sometimes astrologers make the worst astrologers, like doctors make the worst patients. And the last eclipse cycle that closes out this month, the Taurus Scorpio ones, they have reverberated in my life all the way back to when I was sort of 8 or 9 through the events that have happened this time. Okay. And they're pretty magical like that. And so because we're dealing with nodes, we can't ever look at the sky and say, hey, the North Node is rising in the morning sky. We never see them. So while they have a lot of influence and effect, they're shadows. They're calculated points. Eclipses, whether it's a lunar or a solar, a light source is getting blocked. So we're dealing with shadows. We're dealing with things that are a little bit unseen and then get revealed again. And so eclipses are like that. Our modern minds want to be able to connect the dots and A plus B equals C. Eclipses don't work like that. So to understand the eclipses in your birth chart, you have to sort of, look back through those periods and connect your own dots. For some people, their charts are not specifically particularly nodal. So eclipses may not show up in dramatic ways. For others who do have nodal charts, me being one of them, yeah, they do seem to play out in the ways you would expect. So that being said, I will also have eclipse seasons where I can't point to anything. So sometimes that is going to happen because we are dealing with shadows. And sometimes, they dance around and we don't see them. Looking forward to that release. I'm a Scorpio ascendant with Mars in Libra at 21. Awesome. So, yeah, it will probably, I can imagine that would be an entanglement of some stress, the 12th house type of things there. Thank you for that comment. Love the way of thinking about that. Is this eclipse related to the April 2024? Yeah, it is, because it's on the same sign axis. So, we are dealing with Aries and Libra. I mean, we have one last one in Taurus at the end of this month. And yeah, I mean, it will be related. However, the key difference is that it's going to be your Libra house where there may be some sense of loss or letting go. And when people hear that, they don't like it. And that's, understandable. But we don't lose something that we have not gained from, in a sense. It's almost like you can't eliminate from the body something you haven't consumed. So the North Node can speak to where we've had too much of something. I know, say, in the US, Thanksgiving's coming up. I believe Canada's already had it. So they've had their North Node of all the food, right? And now it's like, okay, maybe I need to tighten the belt or a little bit less sugar and alcohol kind of thing. And so right now there's a cleansing of sorts or a purification or delving back into aesthetic qualities. The South Node is almost like a rejection, not in the Saturn way. It's almost like a toddler that's had too much food. When you're trying to feed I have a son, he's not a toddler anymore, but when I was feeding him as a baby, as mums, we're, trying to shove that spoon and just one more mouthful, one more mouthful. But when the baby has decided it's had its fill, you'll have mashed potato flying up the walls. So there's an area of life where, you are rejecting something. I've had enough of something. I don't want to do that habitual pattern as per your Libra house. So the next eclipse is that sort of invitation. Okay, now I've sort of dismantled some patterns in one house. Now I need to strive for something else. This could be a hunger or an ambition for action, for independence, for deciding and doing. It could be about starting something new and fresh and exciting, where you might like togetherness, you might like separateness, coming up for April. What's nice, I guess, about the April one is that the sun is in its exaltation. It's on the North Node. It's a little bit more sort of action orientated and sort of going for gold type of thing. This one is a little bit about breaking some habitual patterns of togetherness, of harmony. And I keep coming back to the idea of, where in your life are you going along to get along? But really inside you're at that point, yeah, I just don't want to do that anymore. It's not working for me anymore, or it's just depleting energy. That's not giving me that peace. That's not giving me that joy, or is not, making me feel balanced in the ways that I need to feel balanced. Awesome. So we've been going for just over 30 minutes now. So I do hope that this has helped you think about the eclipse in a few different ways. Both will be visible here in Texas. Yes, I'm aware. It's going to be a big one. I have a lot of things to say about that, but probably not on the YouTubes. But yeah, if you would like to, more deeper, real dives, real talk, it's the Golden Circle where I do a lot of that. I'll pop links in the comments, pinned comment or in the show notes, whatever. If you would like to become a member, there's a lot of material and special offers there. And of course, if you're wanting to get started in astrology, I'm more than happy to welcome you into my latest group, and that starts November 1. Take it easy this weekend. Be gentle. Take care of the nervous system. Libra is an air sign overall. After all, I should say, oh, awesome, you are a member. I don't recognize NKH on YouTube. You might have a different name there. So happy to hear that you're with us. Yes, be gentle with yourself. As I said, Libra is an air sign. Be cautious of the information you take in. If it makes you feel out of balance, out of whack, not feeling that sense of inner peace, just cut it away. Put down the phone, stop procrastinating or doom scrolling. Maybe make some posts about hope, about peace, about balance. And I think that might be some really helpful medicine for a lot of people right now. Jasmine, I'm a member too. I'm in Canada. Oh, that's okay. No worries about not making it. You will definitely, hopefully, get that next month. So with our monthly calls, we do alternate time zones to sort of accommodate the Europeans and the US. It's tricky being from the future in Australia. I've got to sort of work the time zones, a little bit of an occupational hazard there, but it's all good. All right, everyone. Yeah, be gentle on yourself. Spread some love out there. I think a lot of people need it right now, and look forward to catching you in the next one.